Hello?
Hello, is Seanan Williams there?
Yeah, speaking.
Hello, this is Dustin from KMSU. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent. I'm here with my co-host, Ton.
Hey, man, how's it going?
What's your name?
Ton.
Ton, like T-O-N?
Yeah,
All right, Ton. How you guys doing?
we're good.
Good.
Well, we got some questions for you if you have time.
Yeah, I'm ready for some questions.
All right, well, we'll ask you how you started up playing with Dengue Fever.
I started with Dengue Fever at the beginning in 2002. Me and Zach, the dude with the really big beard, have been friends for years and years, and we've always been on tour with different bands and kind of hung out. And then basically one day he called me up and he said he had a bunch of singers lined up in Long Beach to try out, and we're kind of thinking of, and he wanted to do something that was influenced by Cambodian psychedelic rock. And I had already traveled to Cambodia, and we were all listening to the same music, and I just thought it was a crazy idea. The original plan was to just kind of help him out and just kind of help him find a singer. And, 9 years later, here I am, still rocking the band. It was so much fun. I just stayed. It took a little while to find Nimal, though, because initially, for the first several rehearsals in Long Beach, trying to find a Cambodian singer, was all these ladies that just couldn't really quite sing, and just kind of, it was a really strange experience, like being completely outside of my bubble, or all of our bubble. But then as soon as Nimal walked in and started singing beautifully, we kind of became a good idea again.
How did you guys decide to play this kind of music? It seems like kind of an odd pairing.
Well, it's, it's like, well, if you hear this original psychedelic rock from Cambodia in the late 60s, it's like total surf guitar, distortion, and then just like crazy drums, and then this beautiful, like, Cambodian style singing over it. So it's like, it was a familiar sound. And so just like spinning it when you're driving around town, or like, whenever you'd put it on at a party, people would be like, oh man, this music is so cool, And then the scene here in Silver Lake was just kind of, a bunch of bands just kind of like strumming big bar chords, and not really, there just wasn't really anything exciting happening. And so we just thought, it'd be really fun to do something crazy and just kind of out of the ordinary, just to kind of, first of all, be fun for us, and then fun for people who come to see the shows and hang out. So it just seemed like something to try. We never thought it'd be like a long project or would go on for so long. And we never thought it would take us to Cambodia. We never thought it would take us to all over Europe and, Russia. We never thought it'd take us anywhere. We just thought it would just be something fun to try, and that's just kind of how it started.
Now, when you guys were deciding for those early albums, you guys did mostly covers, right?
Yeah, just our first album. Our first album was all covers. And our second album had one cover. And then I think after that, it's just the last two have been all original. And the reason why we made that first album all covers is that Nimal didn't speak a word of English when we first got together. And she had never, been in a band that wrote original music. It's like most Cambodian singers have a repertoire of, couple hundred tunes. And no matter what club they go and sing at, there's a house band, and they just tell the band what songs to play. And it's just kind of like this thing. It's, repeated year after year after year. And so she wasn't really understanding what we were saying when we were saying, hey, this is an original song. Can you sing this? And then whenever we do an original song, it would just kind of fall flat. Like it didn't have the spirit of the old 60s rock. So we said, you know what, forget it. We'll just make an album of this stuff, and then we'll use that to launch all the albums afterwards. And so I think it took making that album covers for Nimal to realize kind of where we were coming from and where we were going to next. So that's kind of how we, wasn't our intent. It's just kind of was like the only way we could really get off the ground.
In the mid-'70s, when the Khmer Rouge kind of went through Cambodia and kind of eliminated a lot of their culture, was it hard for you guys to track down some of those 60s songs to cover, or did she already know a lot of them? Or?
I went to Cambodia in 1995, just traveling, and I got turned on to the music then, and I went to these markets, and there was a lot of these markets that still had, all these crazy paintings and all these crazy-looking 60s kind of like parties, photographs and stuff on the cassette. So I would pick those out, and some of it would be like an old picture but new music, and some of it would be, old music as well. And so I kind of knew that it was there, but I didn't know what it was, And then when I came back to the States, Long Beach is like the largest community outside of Cambodia of Cambodians. So in Long Beach, basically the U.S. brought a lot of Cambodians over here as refugees, and with them came the music. So actually the music was able to escape Cambodia And I later found out that all this music that I found in Cambodia had come from L.A. back to Cambodia. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
So it's very bizarre how it all kind of goes back and forth. But yeah, when people left, they brought the music. So luckily, a lot of the music survived, but obviously a lot of it didn't.
When you guys are writing the new songs, how do you choose between which ones you write in Khmer and which ones are in English, or do you do them in Khmer first and translate? Or
we some of the songs we have Cambodian versions, and some we just know from the get go that it has to be in English or in Khmer. And also Nimal, now that she speaks English, she's like she wants to connect with the English-speaking audience more. So she's like, she's wanting to sing more songs in English. And some songs are like, you know what, Nimal, I know you want to sing that in English, but like Uku or something sounds so beautiful in Khmer that it's really important you sing the song in Khmer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of song to song and the vibe. If it's like a rocker, sometimes we like to mix them up. It's like each song has its own life, and we kind of know early on kind of what direction we want to go in.
When you guys traveled over to Cambodia and filmed that documentary,
yeah,
what was it like bringing that music back to a Cambodian audience? Was that kind of a head trip, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was we just went back last year, and it was a completely different experience because people knew about us and knew our music and kind of just opened their arms to us and embraced, and kind of it was a whole different vibe. But when we went there in 2005, people didn't know what the heck they were looking at. They thought it was so well received, but at our shows, it was more like people standing there, with their mouths wide open going, what the hell am I looking at? You know what I mean? It was a completely different vibe in 2005. But after our first performance in Cambodia, Nimal's cell phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was all of her families and friends saying how proud of her she was, that she came back, she brought Americans, but she's still sticking with her Khmer roots. And so we got a lot of support. And I think because of that support, allowed us to go back a few years later, and then we're planning to go back again this year. So I think people are really supportive of us and what Nimal is doing, and it's just I really feel like there's like a special vibe over there, which I really hadn't expected.
Would you say those experiences in Cambodia, do they help your guys' songwriting at all, or did it help her to get on board with you guys making originals or anything?
I think we can't help but be influenced by all these Cambodian musicians, and it's kind of cool to go back over there and jam with some of these master musicians, because we hooked up with this organization called Cambodian Living Arts, which like finds older musicians and dancers and artists to like teach the young kids kind of through art, teach them their own culture, and so we hooked up with these guys, and so the last couple of times we've been over there, we've been able to jam with Kong Nai and a bunch of other amazing musicians. So yeah, that does really, this woman Tep Marie, who plays this instrument called the Rionet, really influenced us. So it's pretty hard not to be influenced by that music. I mean, I kind of like the idea that here I am playing this like Western, fretted instrument, and then mixing it with all of these microtonal and all these crazy ass sounds. It's kind of fun, but it's an undeniable influence. But it's not the only influence to Cambodian music is not the only influence to what I do.
Why don't you tell us a bit about the new album you guys just released?
Yeah, it's called Cannibal Courtship. Yeah, it's all original music. I think it's it's just a natural development. I mean, we've been a band for so long, and we're going to the studio to really try and push each other. And I think this album has more English on it, but it also has a really solid thread through the whole album. There's nothing. We didn't rush to make this album. We made it at our own pace. So every song, to me, is just as strong as the next. It's all kind of fits into the puzzle. It's definitely an album. It's definitely, the whole thing is meant to be a piece of music. So, but also there's some really, there's some really rockers on there like Cannibal Courtship and Family Business that kind of encapsulate. I don't think it's like incredibly retro sounding, but it definitely has just a nice distorted fuzz kind of drive to it. And then there's songs where we kind of embrace the more kind of dreamy, psych, Cambodian vibe, but kind of less going to the Cambodian pop or rock, but more going to the Cambodian traditional music, and then mixing it kind of with our own sound.
Yeah.
A lot more horns too, man. Like, kind of David went crazy with big old horn sections and stuff like that, which was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah, it seems like now you guys are really starting to kind of pick up speed here and become more mainstream or more popularity around the country, at least outside of the West Coast.
I hope so. I mean, as far as mainstream, it's kind of funny. It's like I may have all these mainstream hopes and all, but really we're playing, this really not mainstream style of music, you know, and I think people's minds are opening up to accept different sounds, but I definitely think we have these hopes of hitting some kind of going someplace farther than we've gone, which I'm kind of happy with how far we have gone. But I think when it comes down to it, we're playing this music that really, people have to listen to, have to pay attention to. It's not it's not necessarily, it takes a cool kid to listen to it and go, wow, that's rad. I mean, it's not thoughtless music. And I think, part of who I am, it's like I've always just stuck to my guns and just played music that I think is beautiful. And I figure in the long run, it's better for the soul. And that's kind of why I play the music,
Yeah. Well, it must be working if you're able to play a show in Minnesota with this kind of sound. Then what you guys are doing must be working. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's taken me long enough. I've been touring and doing all this for I don't know how many years, and this is going to be my first show in Minnesota. So there you go. It's taken a while, but I've arrived.
And you guys are playing June 3rd at the 7th Street Entry, right?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that show for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
What should I expect?
It's hard.
Street.
It's hard to say, I guess.
Yeah, it is really hard to say.
Should I expect 3 people, 300 people, 14 people? Who knows, right?
Well, I'm sure it'll be packed.
Yeah, it'll be packed because there's enough kids that will want to come just to check it out if they're not even totally knowing what it's all about. But
very cool.
As far as the audience reaction, you never know what to expect here.
I imagine it'll be pretty good. I think when people see us live, they go, "Whoa, this is like I don't know. I saw like some post or something online. Some woman was saying like, I was expecting to see a kitsch band, and then when I saw them play, I got like I realized that they're just a band, musicians playing music and love playing music together. And I thought that was really sweet because I think a lot of people don't know what to expect. Like they expect to see something funny or odd.
Yeah.
When they come to the shows, they realize we're just like laying down some tunes and just rocking it. It kind of makes them go, whoa, this is like music. And I think that's what music is. I think people forget to realize that musicians that play music, at least the good musicians are just, they're at home working on music and creating. They're like people that are just trying to create art to make people happy. It's not like, we're not trying to create some kind of mind game. We're just trying to create something really, really cool and really something fun to do,
Yeah, we're looking forward to the show. Do you have any parting words for us before we let you go?
Well, I'm looking forward to come up there. I'm glad I'm coming up in was it spring now? Is that what it is? Because I hear like in wintertime I'd probably freeze my face off. So
yeah,
I'm glad I'm coming up there during a time of year you could actually go outside.
Yeah, it'll be nice and warm and everything. It'll be good.
Yeah, I'll definitely trip around town and try and check it out. I'm sure it's very nice, and a lot of people would be happy to be outside. So I'm looking forward to all the good vibes.
Yeah, I don't think we get a lot of West Coast bands in the winter up here.
Yeah, you probably don't even get your local bands in the winter up
there. Yeah, sometimes those guys are pretty used to it though. Local guys,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one.
They're hardy. Yeah, they're hardy folk up there, right?
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah,
that's what we are.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I look forward to seeing everybody, and I look forward to the show.
All right.
Well, awesome, guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right. Well, take care, and thanks for calling.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, bye-bye.